for a few minutes hiccup. We had a disconnection, as all things can go in live events, things that will go wrong will go wrong. So, but we're here. We've got the whole team with us today, and we're talking about how can you as a business owner, how can you as a salesperson increase your sales touch points every single day? How can you continue to grow authority? What are the proper ways that we can drive through and do just connection and sales every single day? I think we're going to give it just a second here. It looks like the LinkedIn connection, the live event is still logging up. So before we hop right into it, we're going to just give it a few more seconds. Great, now we're connected here. So welcome to the LinkedIn audience. We're also live streaming on YouTube. And again, this is running, if you're seeing this either on the Rising Tide page or on my page at Grady Teske on YouTube. We appreciate you. As always, what we're trying to do is we're trying to help you build distribution within your business, build manageable pipeline that will either help scale your activity as a founder or scale the amount of volume and outreach you can do on sales teams. And to do that, today I've got with me two people infinitely smarter than I am that I rely on all the time when it comes to driving digital selling. How do we take field sales behavior? How do we take cold calling and we drive that into digital interaction? And so with us today, we've got Luke Kimber first. Luke Kimber is from Exomoon Media, and his experience really has been around driving lead generation throughout his company, but also with multiple agencies prior, working with clients across the services industry and really focusing around e-commerce, helping to drive more natural conversational organic acquisition. At its core, he relies on his background, his superpower of copywriting. And now today, one of the things we're going to talk about is how does he merge being a copywriter, a messaging copywriter, really pulling people in with words, and how is he doing that now with AI support? Luke, do you want to just drop a quick line to say hello? Anything I missed as far as your background bio there?
That's a great introduction, Grady. Thank you for having me. And yeah, eager to have a chat.
Yeah, we're excited, and we appreciate Luke too. Luke has been really helpful as far as helping me to understand and structure and position this solution as far as an overall toolbox for business owners. So appreciate the relationship Luke has, and I will say the part of the reason we're on this call is he, like us, is always willing to give what we do away for free. So if you have questions after, the easiest way to connect is with Luke Kimber at LinkedIn. And make sure you set up that connection, ask any questions. Like all three of us, he's happy to give away what he knows to help you get started. And then we have also with us is Mohit Bisht. Mohit has been working with Rising Tides for nearly a year now, but really building on almost 5 years of experience helping to establish automation, RevOps, GTM engineering, whatever you want to call it, supporting both startup teams and also B2B founders with developing automated solutions for their go-to-market. What sort of background do you want to add to that color, Mohit, that kind of can explain who you are and what you do?
Oh, thank you, Grady. I think that's quite summarized the entirety of today's GTM engineering. But yeah, thank you for having me.
Perfect. And both of, as I mentioned, both of these resources I rely on, and specifically, how do they help me? Well, my background is in building teams, and what that ultimately does is I help set go-to-market teams, whether it's sales or marketing based. And we think about structurally what are the activities that really build up that conversation between you and customers. And so I rely on people like Luke and Mohit to think about how are we messaging them? How are we reaching them? Who are we filling into this buckets? So these are the type of experts as you're building your company to rely around functional experts at each point that really help you keep connected with customers. And so again, if you would like to connect up with either of these afterwards, LinkedIn's the best resource for them. And if you're thinking about additionally, how do I structure and lead my go-to-market as a company? These are the types of things that I think about all the time. What are the tasks that you need to do to build around your sales organization? And then today, we're really talking about, again, how do we translate field selling into cold outreach, into LinkedIn sales, into these different channels, Twitter as well, WhatsApp, where you can build conversations with prospects, drive them through awareness, create that awareness and that interest that gets them to researching about your product and solution, and hopefully driving them to the point of conversion when the intent and the time is right. So today we're going to talk about a couple of things, but practically how are we leveraging AI as a tool to really support that? What are the key useful areas that you can use it in? And also, what are the things that we can do or you can do as a business owner or salesperson that'll help you get impact today, right after this call? So right off the top, let's just dive right into a real broad but pointed question. What is the kind of key trends, especially this quarter as people are going into the end of 2025, starting to think about 2026, that we can start to do and implement in our either sales outreach, LinkedIn outreach, or cold emailing this year? And I'll let Mohit, I'll let you take over. Where's the industry going? How can you stand out?
Yeah, I think that's a great question, Gary, to off the top to start with. Uh, I think overall right now, from an outreach perspective, as well as from a distribution perspective, all the channels are equally important based on the industry and the market that you are operating in, and where exactly is your TAM, sits into. So we basically are right now, because we operate in the B2B space and how people are right now reaching out to their prospects and how people are actually engaging with their potential ICPs. Email and LinkedIn are the two channels we are currently seeing are either underutilized or not being properly set up. But these are the channels which are definitely yielding results to a lot of B2B providers out there. And I think this is where most of the players, because you have seen recently Clay, have got a recent funding out there. And a lot of players in the distribution space are coming to the market. They're expanding their business, they're expanding their footstep out there. Overall, from an distribution perspective, email and LinkedIn are the two channels which I see are going to thrive in the coming future. I'm not sure, Luke, do you want to add something to where exactly are we heading overall? I mean, I understand that AI is again another angle to overall how we do distribution is going to change traditionally, which we are going to talk later. But yeah.
Yeah, I think some people have good success with SMS as well, but definitely email and LinkedIn is like the main channels you want to focus on. And really the question is like your starting point, I think, is like your specific situation, like how big is your total addressable market, and then like based of that you can either use AI and the tools that we have right now to either just increase the effectiveness of like large volume campaigns, or you can go like into like building agents and like super personalized and just far less volume but more personalized and different infrastructure as well. So there's different scenarios, but definitely LinkedIn and email are like the foundation for both of them.
And are there ways that when you think about, as you mentioned, LinkedIn, email, you also brought up things like SMS, and I know WhatsApp is another channel, doing outreach across different channels. Each of them, obviously, there's target market segments that are more active in different areas, but also are there different ways that you leverage the platforms? Like, would you use cold email and LinkedIn for the same sort of function or the same part of the conversation? How do you guys break that up when you're thinking about like taking a cold prospect and starting to nurturing them in? When's the right time to use LinkedIn versus email versus going to SMS?
Mohit, you want to start, or I can get this one?
No, I think
What?
I can add overall on top of, see, if it totally depends on what exactly is your TAM and what percentage of the TAM are you trying to address, right? If your volume is lower, and if you have like these are the core ICPs you want to go after, and these are the decision makers you want to go after, and if your volume is low, I would suggest we should definitely do a multi-channel outreach. And there are ton of tools out there like Limlist, for example. They offer the multi-channel outreach approach. You can go after sending them, hitting them both ways, so that because LinkedIn always is a channel which is gonna definitely work for you, because it's the channel where there is a face to who exactly is reaching out to the other person, right? And again, if you are dealing in masses, you probably have to do a nurturing via email, and then push those potential prospects to an MQL, and then followed by the downstream cycle stages.
So
Yeah,
essentially,
Luke.
volume helps you
Yeah.
determine which channel works best from Mohit's side. Luke, do you want to add onto that or challenge that? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I would also say, like, if you want to combine, like, just realizing, and it's something that a lot of people do not realize, like, just realizing the limitations of the channels. So, for example, when we do, because most of what I do is cold email. So, like, if you realize, like, you have to put yourself in a perspective of the person that receives the email from you. You have to realize the limitations of the channel. So with email, it's basically it works very well if you have a good offer, like specific offer, and it's very it resonates well with the audience. And so that's how you want to start. If you want to start with cold email, you just have to really work on your offer and make it as compelling as possible and personalized as well, of course. But you have to realize, like, when people get an email from you, usually they don't even see your photo. They cannot see you. They cannot click on you and like immediately research you. So they can like Google you, but this is like, it takes some time. So with LinkedIn, they just can immediately check you out and like just click on you and they know everything. So with email, like what we find quite often is like people are interested to reply to the email, but they say like, let's connect on LinkedIn and like, can you send, or even they say like, can you send this to me on LinkedIn? So it's like this, it's like a limitation that you have to be aware of when you do cold email. And also like, you can use it as a part of your campaign. When you do cold email, you can like mention LinkedIn, you can mention like, oh, I sent you connection on LinkedIn and so on. So you basically like get rid of this objection that comes from the limitation of the channel that is called email.
So what I'm hearing is, obviously, as Mohit brought up, the size of your market and where they sit at will drive a lot of the decision making of where to outreach them. Right. This is a very common sales thing. You want to go right to where your customers are. The other aspect, as Luke brought up, is really thinking about like that's more of like a where do I start at. What you really want to do is think about how are you leveraging both of these platforms and other alternatives in an overall conversation structure. So if I'm hearing you correctly, a cold outreach email is great for when you have strong offers and you want to create awareness, and maybe you're hitting up people. Again, this is cold, so we don't know, are they at the point of intent, are they researching solutions, or are they just completely out of it but in the right market segment, so maybe today's not the solution. So you use cold email to make offer awareness and also drive conversion to the point. And then based off of that, you're leveraging other platforms based off of where the customers are, LinkedIn being a real common one, to be more conversational, less offer driven, but more of like, again, creating more awareness, attachment, driving so that they have a connection to you. So when they're ready for that point of either research or purchasing, that the offer that's hitting their cold email inbox starts to get a higher open rate, starts to get that click through. Was that a good way to put how you're leveraging both of these platforms? Two of you?
Yeah, that's a great summary. And like, I think like just a good way to think about it is like, you don't want to just create, if you do cold email on a pretty big volume, you don't want to just end up with a CSV list that you just have, and then it's, you like forget about it, or maybe you just keep reusing it. But you actually want to like build your connections, right? So you want to turn that CSV list into like actual CRM list that you can then like keep working on. You don't want to just, okay, it either hits or it doesn't hit. You just want to create a list of people who heard about you, and you can just keep following up, whether that's on LinkedIn or cold calls. Like a lot of people do cold email, and then if they get any interested reply, they immediately call the lead. Like that's a very good
Exactly.
thing to do. So yeah.
Yeah, the bottom line, and this is something that if you read my newsletter or you follow me, you see that I hammer on. It's all about like building distribution. And this core function is a really good way to start that process. And what do I mean by that? Like you just nailed it, Luke. Think less about your activity around a CSV. We're moving to the year 2026, AI is a very common thing. Lists really shouldn't be anything in any go-to-market sales or founders vernacular anymore because it's a static item. Instead, we're talking about audience segments. And as Luke mentioned, it's the goal isn't just to drive conversion from a list, it's to drive connection with an audience. Knowing that, again, this audience may or may not buy today, they certainly could buy. And that's what we're ultimately trying to do with cold outreach in 2025. We're looking to qualify over convert, is one major differentiation that I'm hearing. So, for the interest of time, I think thinking about lists and how we use AI towards the prospecting, that's a really valuable tool and a way to think about how to leverage AI in your business model. And what I'll just say on the top level of that is thinking about how the prospecting that you did as the first salesperson within your company and what you expect from your sales team to do, those are easy activities that you can now turn over to either AI or leverage external tools such as Clay, and even the dirty word Apollo here, is as a resource to get you started. But again, what I want you to think about using these external tools or using agents is less about CSV and list building and much more about how to identify audiences. Because what we're going to talk about right now is the better use of AI. That's a great way to baseline to get you started on it, building prospect audiences. The better use of AI now is how do we continually change the message to fit the conversation that's unique between you and this prospect, or unique around the conversation of what it is your business. Because at the end of the day, what you're selling, what you do or provide for your customer, that's all a conversation. And it starts here with this first cold email outreach. So Luke, you have a copywriting background. How are you leveraging AI now to either expedite or personalize or fine tune? How are you optimizing your outreach leveraging AI from a copywriter standpoint?
Yeah. So this is something that AI is really amazing for, and like you have to be a good copywriter to prompt to get good results with AI as well. So whether you are or whether you hire a copywriter to set it up for you, I think like that's a good way to go about it. Like you have someone that actually prompts the AI and like explains to you like how it should be made, or maybe later on. But it's really like, so like people say like, okay, like copywriter is not gonna have a job anymore because of AI. Like that's not the true, because you can, if you don't get like what is a good copywriting for outreach, like you cannot get good results with AI either. So how we do things right now is basically we build projects and we use Claude because we found that Claude is better than ChatGPT for copywriting. And we build projects for each client. We build a separate project inside Claude, and it's like you combine different tools as well. So we do a research on the company, we do a research on their market, their audience, and so on, competitors with Perplexity. So we have like this big research PDF from Perplexity. We upload that into project inside Claude. We then upload like the best do's and don'ts and like just current guidelines on how to do things, like just general, universal ways of doing things these days. We upload that, and we can also, always it's great to give AI specific examples, not just give it like rules to follow, because it can sometimes miss the mark still if you just give it the rule. So best to give it a rule and then give an example where it's just put in place. So we give examples of our past winning campaigns, past winning scripts, while also, of course, telling it that we don't want you to blatantly copy it, but just look at the frameworks, look at how we did things, why we did things, and like take learnings from that. So we combine all of that inside a project in Claude, and then we use Claude to basically brainstorm campaign ideas, brainstorm angles, and it's your feedback is still like very important, because if you get like 10 campaign ideas from AI, and you ask it, okay, like from these 10 campaigns, give me the best one. Oftentimes it's not gonna be the best one. Like, so you still have to review it.
Yeah.
But it's just great for getting a lot of ideas, and just once you have 20 solid ideas, it's really easy to get moving and choose like one really good one from it, and just A/B test more things faster as well.
Yeah. So if I contextualize this, I'm sorry for pimping my book here, but I've been thinking about it and I wrote it. I talked a little bit about how we build teams in the book, and what I'm hearing you say, it definitely translates over from team building into leveraging AI as part of your team. Because as a copywriter, what I didn't hear you say, and I want all sales and business owners to hear this, is you don't use AI to write your message, right? You don't use AI to just de facto create content to express who you are. But what we leverage AI is very much the same way that you build teams and train employees. First and foremost, you're using the AI to create a knowledge center, to create research around the individual prospect. Not necessarily for hyper personalization, but maybe more for offer placement, for being able to contextualize why it's going to be important and fit. And then you're also leveraging it to make sure that your messaging, the content deliverables you have, everything is optimized for the best outreach structure today, right? And whether I'm doing it for like messaging, copywriting, or social content, or repackaging for newsletters, I love this idea of leveraging AI to tell me, hey, what's the best performing structure? How should I lay out? How should it just be written? And then that applies that packaging to whatever we're talking about to make it the most accessible, right? Because this is like, I think, a key point in one of the ways that we're now using AI to get faster is like, it's not necessarily changing how we talk to people. It's not necessarily changing what we're saying, but it is making us all speak better or more appropriately to the audiences so that they can hear what we're trying to say. Is that a good way to put that?
Yeah, yeah.
And then,
And to,
go ahead.
go ahead.
I was going to say the last part that I love is that you've trained a knowledge center on the prospect that helps you with the writing, but you've also trained the knowledge center on you and the offer. So most importantly, you can select maybe the most relevant or the most aligned example, or position the examples of that you've had, the successes you've had in the past, how it relates to these individual users. And this is a major breakthrough because, again, when we think about like the syntax aspect of personalization, particularly on LinkedIn, I'm so glad that we're beyond that phase of like, hey, I saw you were in Aspen last week. How was the skiing, right? Not relevant. Instead, we're talking about, hey, I read this about, I'm aware that your business has done this and you've served people like that. Here's something that we've done specifically related to the core function that we have that's completely relevant to this scenario for your business. How would you see that working out for you in the future? Is that exactly like how you're talking about, like that placement there?
Yeah, yeah. That's a good way to put it. And
Go ahead.
one more thing like about like just working with AI is I would suggest, like, for example, like if you see like there's so many things on LinkedIn, like you see like people sharing their winning scripts and so on, and like the first thought that a lot of people get, like, it's okay, I'm gonna take this script and I'm gonna ask AI to just like use it and make it for me. But that's like AI that cannot give you a good result if you just do that. So
Yeah.
instead, you can just go a step further and ask AI to, like, okay, like this is because like this is a winning script. For example, they got like a good engagement on it, so that. So you tell AI like, okay, this is like they got like this got so much engagement. This really worked. I know it worked. Like, explain to me why it worked. What frameworks they used in this, and then like once you get those frameworks, this feedback, like you'd say, okay, like how we can apply it to our company, our business, our offer. So instead of just giving it a script and asking it to copy it for you, you go a step further and you just learn together with AI, and you just have to think about AI like a human being, kind of. and just go step by step instead of expecting to give you like the perfect thing you want, because there's millions of results it has to generate, and what's the chance that it's going to give you exactly what you want, right?
I love the way you frame that, thinking about it as a person, and I'll take it even a step further. I'd like to think about it a lot as like an intern, where the most that I can expect out of an intern or a first or a second year employee is contextualization and processing. And that's what AI can give us today. I don't expect them to drive real strategy, you know. The other aspect that they do is that if you think about the intern of a new hire, what's one of the benefits of introducing and relying on somebody in your business? They have visibility on people doing the same thing in other areas, right? And I think every business owner would love to grab this. When you bring new employees in, yeah, you want to teach them about what the rising tideway is and how we do things and what makes us important. But also, I want to know, like, what's everybody else doing? What am I missing out on? And so I love that you brought that up, that that's how you're using it. So Mohit, now I know that we do use AI for some messaging and copywriting, but we're also using a lot on the processing power alone. So what are the areas that you think that both you're implementing, but almost any sort of sales or business owner can start to put into their own process to get early results from AI today that you don't have to be a developer to know how to use? That's a baited question.
No, I think Luke kind of covered everything that we also suggest on the same lines, because I think we started due to we started even before implementing when Clay Agent, when NA10 came into the market, and we started using all these platforms which are there for automation alone. So right now, for example, like Luke mentioned, we were doing hyper focused AI driven content, and later on, because we failed, right? And but later on we realized, okay, this is how the content should be. We should know, but so we have to think like humans, right? AI should be given context to what we are doing. There should be defined steps that, okay, this is what we offer. For example, this is what are all the messages. So for example, we have to train the AI not only on our things that this is what we offer, but also what really works. So there are past emails, past messaging, past offers which have worked for us, which resulted in good results. But also we are going one line even beyond that, which is we are doing a deep research on each and every company that we are trying to go after,
Mhm.
because at individual level it will be too much, and we don't recommend doing individual level research, because it's like privacy concern and all those good stuff which is there. So that's why we recommend always do a research on the company that you're targeting, prospects list that you are already gonna build. And also when this AI actually, the agent that we built, let it be on Clay, let it be on NA10, it's going to do a deep research on the company, why it is a good fit, and what's the potential match of your offerings or services that you are offering, why it is a good match for them. And you have to make sure that it's not writing 100-line message, but also summarize it in a very sleek way that it exactly communicate the pain point and what exactly a solution is. So that's how we ended up in a very good spot right now, that our messaging is working really well in terms of we identifying their pain points specifically to their company, not industry, not geography, none of those jargons which used to be traditionally used, but specifically talking about their industry, their company, and what could be the potential problem they must be facing in the space, right? So I think this is what has worked for us. And if someone who's starting fresh, I would suggest them to start with very minimal. Don't go blasting emails out there, right? Because there is an infrastructure setup and everything. I'm not sure if you're gonna cover in the later part of the call, but messaging and everything that we are talking about right now is only gonna work when you have a from specifically from the email front, when you have a proper, well established infrastructure in place, right? Cold email in today's world is not gonna help you if you are doing blind blast to everybody, even if you're writing content very beautifully, if it's landing like perfectly fine. If your email is not landing on people's inbox, it's nothing, none of those is gonna make sense to you. So I think in the later part, Grady, I'm not sure if you want to cover it right now, but we can cover it later as well. But infrastructure is something which we are really passionate about, and how companies are doing cold outreach, or thinking about outreach should first think about how the email infrastructure has been set up, how their overall cold outreach infra has been set up.
Well, I love that you just teed that up because if you follow the Rising Tides page, we just dropped an infrastructure stack post, I think yesterday. So you can go in there and see the tools that we love. I think for the purpose of this, because if we did an infrastructure call, we'd probably be on there for a good hour and a half. And I think you might it'd be more of a rewind, watch, and get like the keynotes on the transcript side rather than sitting through the call. But I'll save it for today. And Luke, if you have any changes, tools we generally love, we try a lot of different sending tools. We mentioned Lemlist already on this platform. We're big fans of Lemlist, speaking from the Rising Tides group, specifically because of the multi-platform aspect. But really, when it comes to cold email in specific, I don't think that there's a lot of options out there. But I think for people getting started, working with tools such as Smart Lead and Instantly are a great place to get the infrastructure, even on a do-it-yourself. They've got great tools built around it in their additional services they have that can help you get the starting baseline to get going with cold email. And again, maybe your whole goal should be, first and foremost, from an infrastructure standpoint, don't burn yourself, right? Your mainly thing is start on low volume, get an idea, leverage how to use what they've got as far as infrastructure. Those will keep you in a safe place. Then, we both run outreach sort of teams. So we do recommend working with teams because a good outreach agency is going to work with you to help develop the infrastructure first and foremost, and make sure it's tying back into your overall business. And then secondarily, talk about optimizing how the messaging and the campaigns and everything are going. But if you stick within those three boundaries, Luke, is there others that you recommend that just for like a do-it-yourself where you can go in, get started on them, and you're going to have good success at least getting started with cold email or multi-channel?
Yeah, I would add Clay to the list as well. And really, like, there's so much you can do with Clay, and like people say it's difficult. Some people say it's very difficult. It takes a lot of time to learn. But even if you just take Clay and you just sign up for a free trial, and then you just use Clay agent within Clay, you can basically get the personalization part to a good level, because like Clay agent is like, I think, the most useful feature inside Clay for us. And of course, you can use OpenAI API credits. You don't have to use Clay credits. So really, like, you can get on the lowest paid plan on Clay. You don't have to use Clay credits at all, and you can still use it to really improve your campaigns, find the data on people. So we can use Clay for building the script, but you can also just use it to get like those pieces of data that you can maybe then add to your like AI agent or whatever you want to build. So Clay is a great one as well.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, we're talking about AI today, and like you really can't talk about marketing and marketing automation without thinking about Clay. And especially, I know that when I first started hearing about Clay, it was more from people hiring me as a CRO, and I was just amazed at how fast leading salespeople were like running prospecting more than anything else. That's where I initially started to see it. And then, as you mentioned it does have its own sending on its, which is a great place for business owners to get started. As you start to scale out, again, we're looking at those other sending solutions based off the volume you want to hit, and then moving into like finding a partnership that will really help you maintain the infrastructure while also campaign strategy, handling multiple campaigns and optimizing them all. That's where finding like a specialist or a team really helps take the next step for you. The important thing to think about though is Clay as a tool, as we mentioned. N8N is another great tool, a little bit more do-it-yourself than even what Clay has, but it allows you to get increased personalization when it comes to how are you using AI. And I just will say to structure that point is that think about N8N, and if you haven't heard it, I'll drop it in the chat in a minute, but N8N. It's the value that it has is it's a linking tool. So it works similar to like Clay, but you have a lot more freedom in how you're setting up. And similar to Zapier, Make, and Bubbles and other linking tools, it also allows you to have an additional layer of processing in that link. So it becomes conditional logic or smart links, Bottom line is it starts working like that intern and driving that in your business. And so as we kind of move to, again, building out, taking not just AI, but these other tools we just talked about, Clay, N8N, and even make Zappy or whatever you're using in your ecosystem, how are we starting to take outreach as a sole siloed matter of go to market? How are we now incorporating that into the overall sales structure for companies? Mohit, why don't you? This is one of the things I know that you've worked on both with Rising Tides and across your history, is helping people create just one mapped, consistent user journey, customer journey, whatever you want to call it. What are you seeing right now in 2025 that's accelerating that, making it easier, not just for you, but also for business owners to do themselves?
Oh, I think that's a very interesting topic, which I always love to talk about, how AI is entirely, changing the overall landscape of, outreach. Uh, One of the key questions I want to address first, because people say that this entire automation will automate your entire end-to-end funnel, which initially we also tried, but again, there is still a very decent amount of requirement from a human perspective. There is a human element which will always be required. There are companies who are out there doing end-to-end automation. But I still feel like when you are starting early, you should not think about automating the entire journey. You should think about creating small agents, right? For a specific task. For example, right now we have built, so there is a very small use case that you all must be, utilizing or not utilizing. But each and every company which is visiting your website today, are you really converting those guys? For that, what we have done, we have built a Clay N8N agent. What this agent really does, it identifies the domain of the company who is visiting our website, and it goes to our N8N agent. Now, this N8N agent, we have defined up, steps to the agent entirely. First, check whether or not this company is already in our database or not. If it is there, do we have decision makers from this company? If we do, let's see if we can do a follow up with this person. If the person is not there, if the company is not there on our database, now we have to check whether or not this company is a good fit for our business or subscriptions or whatever we are offering, products or services. Then we do a good fit or not, right? Sort of a enrichment there. If the company is a good fit for us, what this agent really does, it goes ahead, and we have integrated Clay and all those tools out there. It integrates really well with all the database providers out there. Then we look for the decision makers from these companies on using any of the data source that you are using right now. But even after that, we have to verify the details. One of the things, clean database is something which we touched before as well. We make sure that whatever database that we are enriching or leads that we are enriching, we have to make sure these are verified details. So you can use a verifier now, and this all of this is happening within a single N8N agent that we have built. Now, as a next step, what we do is we have defined our entire messaging, right? How the messaging needs to be derived. So like I touched earlier also, we define what exactly is going to be the pain point for this company, and then position it with your offering, and just can quickly do a warm touch base with the potential decision maker from the company, because we see there is an intent coming to your website. So this entire thing can be automated using an N8N agent, and you can think of n number of use cases. We have like very complicated N8N agents that we are building internally, which are already in use, which is from end-to-end automation, from from identifying the companies which are going to be a potential fit for your company, to identifying the decision makers from these companies, checking with their database if you have leads from these companies, and then curating personalized messaging for each and every individual that you're going after, and then pushing them to your sending platforms like Smartlead or Lemlist, and each and every message is going to be personalized. So this entire journey is automated using one N8N agent. You have other options. I mean, I would still suggest or recommend, if you are starting early, if you are in the early stage of your outreach, start with Clay. And when you have like mass volumes and mass outreach, and you want to open gates to other geographies, then start going deep and go slowly. and start with mini agents. You don't have to automate the entire thing from the very beginning. Start small and you will grow as you. These tools are pretty much user friendly. I mean, these are like no code tools, and for the most part, and you can potentially build any mini agent that you can think of, which are like recurring in nature, and start there.
So let me ask you, in this scenario that you gave, which is interesting because on the one hand you're like we don't want to automate the entire process, but we want to focus on one small singular event, right? But then in explaining that singular event, I don't know about the other viewers, but I was like, this is a very complex event, right? There's a lot of processes. So just real quick, how many different tools or agents or workflows are just involved in this one workflow scenario? I'm assuming that it's not, you didn't create one N8N or one workflow that does all this, but as you mentioned, you've got copywriting aspects. So in general, when you're building these out in this one scenario, how many different, like again, either workflows or tools that you have set up to build out to handle this one precise aspect prospect?
Yeah. No, I think it does sounds like very complicated in nature, but once if a person is knows the GTM side of the business, and they are like some marketing folks can really build it from the very scratch. So you start with, for example, the basic tools, and that will be utilized to build the website visitor intent signal. Once you gather those signals, for example, we use Clearbit, we use Factors AI. So there are a couple of tools that we use to gather those intent. It goes
Commonly
to
available SaaS. Yeah.
yeah, commonly available tools out there, and it goes to our Google Sheet, which acts as a trigger. Like Google Sheet is another. These are like very basic integrations that we do. Then we use Server API key to do the research on the company. Normal Server API keys. I mean, people who are aware of GTM engineering, they know it's used for generic Google search. Then in the next step, we use OpenAI or Gemini, whatever API keys which are there for the large LLMs out there. You can utilize those and give your specific prompts. I think that's the part that you probably have to work upon. In the next step, it goes to another table in the earlier Google Sheet. So the entire funnel might sound like very complicated, but super easy once you go step by step and move. And then there is the integration between Smart Lead and Limbless happens real quick. There are, I think those are natively available on Clay as well as N8N. Specifically for if you're doing LinkedIn outreach, it's already there. You can start small, like I said, with lower volume, and you can do intent finding from your website to sending those prospects to your LinkedIn automation in a single N8N flow.
So just to simplify it again further, because again, I always have this context layer of I like these conversations because I think about the whole time you're saying that, I think about the humans that have done this for me, and I think about how I've trained them, what their focus was, so you basically have to identify what are the common tools that are already available to get this information and then do things with it. As you mentioned, a capture point, which is common, and also sending tools, which are really common. And then you just leverage it to a basic database. And really the kind of unique part about it, and the reason why I asked you is the reason why we always build custom systems rather than using just Clay or just Smart Leads AI integrations or HubSpot's AI integrations is when it comes down to is this. You own that prompt point that tells you how you specifically want your business to do this and handle it. And if you can own that aspect, then again, it's very simple to take any sort of these steps in between outreach or selling, getting the information, and create knowledge that turns into power in that conversation. So that's the clear takeaway. Just think about like, how do I get this information? Where does it need to go and what needs to process it? If you can do that, then you can diagnose it. Most of these you can start to build yourself with Clay as a resource. Additionally, you can also bring in partners. Luke, what do you have to add as far as like automating some of the either the sequences, the responses, and how you're incorporating that information into people's overall go-to-market?
Yeah, I think you want to just focus on a few things. You don't want to like go out there and build the next shiny automation you see on LinkedIn, but you can do a lot with just basic automations. that are super effective, like just like Mohit mentioned, just seeing who visited your website. And there are tools for that as well, but you can do it cheaper if you just build it yourself. So basically, those tools like do the same thing, but it's better to just own it, like you said, Grady. So for most tools that you see, you can set up the same thing yourself. The clay agent, you can also set it up yourself. Tools like copywriting tools, they also use everything uses OpenAI or Gemini or Cloud. Everything runs on the same foundation, so you can set it up yourself if you want. So yeah, like also like when it comes to pricing of those things, some of the tools that you see are just crazy expensive.
Yes.
So it's good to think about like okay, like have like a little bit of knowledge, like okay, like actually what it does, and then like okay, like can I build it myself, and how cheaper would that be? Or maybe like I'm gonna have like a bit less features, but I'm gonna have the features that I actually need, and it's gonna cost like 20 times less.
Yeah, you know, the unique thing about that is, I wrote about this in my newsletter today. You know, a lot of times I've made in building companies, I've made personnel decisions, but I generally try to hire experts, people that are smarter than me that can tell me how things are done. And from them, I can get a good idea about how things should be laid out. And then the next step is empowering them to use common automations. Like again, start with Clay Agent, start with what HubSpot offers, because it's going to get you to the result faster. But very quickly, you're going to start to see how it doesn't just fit my vibe, or I need to change this. And then you grow to making the custom automations. And eventually, you're at the point where, like, now you've got, as Mohit mentioned, everything is a whole bunch of cylinders, agentic cylinders firing at once, but you don't get there from day one just starting to do your automation. What I will also say, so not only go to commonly available tools, but also look at their templates. Now, all of these platforms we've talked at have done a great job of creating lemlist universities, Clay commonly available templates. Use them to create inspiration. Start with it. Just implement somebody else's quick idea and then change it for your own. If you're reading LinkedIn and you're seeing that great content anchor post, how the template is, just know that like that's a great effective strategy that's probably been manipulated slightly to give 85% of the strategy, but not 100% of the success factor away. So you can use it as a starting point, right? But those are great ways to then increase the automation in your business. And then one of the core takeaways that I love that Mohit shared is, again, think small. Small eventually builds to large. And the clear takeaway from my end too is that whether you're leveraging people like Luke, who are really fine tuning from a message standpoint, or resources like Mohit, who are going to come in and look at what you're doing and fix the process or align the process to handle a lot more volume at a quick pace. Either way, you're working on how do I integrate this into, again, that overall business conversation, which is where I always come back to. So it's important to think about cold outreach, cold email, LinkedIn outreach, SMS and WhatsApp down the line for nurturing, for retargeting. All of these are what? They're just singular tools that we use. Luke, I'm going to put you on the spot right now. Should your business be reliant on cold outreach to close and drive all of your business? Is that a good strategy?
I'd say definitely not, and definitely not one channel. So, for example, a lot of people rely on just cold email or have relied, and you know it's great when it works, but it's all changing all the time. So every channel is changing, like LinkedIn as well. So if you're gonna get like okay, you're doing great, and then this something changes, like the spam filters policy changes or something, and you have to adapt, and suddenly you drop like you get 0 leads instead of what you've been getting, just because one channel changed, and you have to figure out how to adjust. That's not a good way to go about things. It's not ideal. I mean, some people just don't care and they still do it, but it's not definitely not ideal. So yeah,
I
definitely
think it,
multi-channel is what you want to do.
and as a business owner, I totally agree with that. And I think all of us should think like we're owning either our department or business, in the sense that like each of these aspects is part of the overall picture. Like at the end of the day, you want your customers to associate with you and your business. And so they're not going to think about your business in terms of a cold email. They're going to think about it in terms of you. So it's important that you're contextualizing, how do I do this? How am I using these resources to bring me closer to this audience on a regular basis and matching what their expectations of the process and the company are. I'm saying that specifically because as someone who's routinely hired to help build go to market, people get frustrated when they don't see the results because they believe it's solely dependent on one channel. Ads is another area, just like cold email, where people get so caught on being part of the results. But at its core, I'm going to phrase this question to you, Mohit. And again, I'm gonna give you almost a turnaround answer on it. Should you be thinking about all outreach, especially cold selling, as a way to convert business, or is it a bigger part of your entire pipeline strategy, of your entire conversational strategy? How should people contextualize what the results of cold outreach should be for their business?
Well, I think Luke again. Luke always covers the overall gist of the entire process, but I think he's rightly mentioned if it is working for you, good enough. But is it the only channel we should be relying upon? Definitely not. So
Never.
how I usually recommend people to do it. Think of it like an overarching channel, right? This is like the coldest channel you can ever have. But that doesn't mean the cold channel is directly going to convert into an SQL. At times, it will definitely, but you should not be thinking it from that perspective. You should be thinking cold as a channel where you're going to making people aware of your business and potentially getting MQLs out of it. And once you get those MQLs, there should be another channel, for example, LinkedIn, because in email, you can do mass emailing at once. But can you do the same volume on LinkedIn? No, right? So you probably have to do MQLs, drive MQLs from your cold outreach. If you're getting sales, that's well and good. But for the most part, you should be driving those MQLs, then push them to LinkedIn. That's how I do it currently, but it can change. You can have different channels like SMS, WhatsApp, other channels which Grady has mentioned. But overall, these from if you are in the B2B space, cold should be always driving MQLs, then moving them to a warmer channel like HubSpot. You can do newsletter campaigning, you can do marketing, those beautiful emails and whatnot to nurture those leads further down the line and convert them into an XQL. So this is the approach that I would usually recommend. But again, if it is working for you, that's well and good. But this shouldn't be the only channel you should be relying upon as far as your overall sales conversions are concerned.
Yeah, I love you, and I love. Excuse me, I love this. Ooh, got real serious there for a second. I love this because how I contextualize it a lot is when we really talk about these activities. They have other business uses, but primarily what people think about them is cold calling. And I have started my career by cold calling regionally, nationally. And what it takes, it's not always going in the front door. It's not always picking up the call, and it's not always finding people at events. That's going to be the way to do it. So using a mixture at the point of cold to let people be aware of you is the best way to do it. As Luke mentioned, sometimes that means going in the front door with emails. Sometimes it means meeting them in public at like the local picnic, which is like LinkedIn, the town square sort of aspect. And sometimes it means a mix of that using the DM functionality and using other features like lemless capability of sending SMS messaging or doing direct calling when it's appropriate, like they've been visiting your website off of a link click that you drove to them. So the key takeaway is this is why we're in a really golden era of leveraging AI specifically around this place where you can use agentic tools to raise the volume of the sales touch points you have while also increasing the connectivity by building knowledge centers, as Luke mentioned, by being continually improving the packaging of your offer and your messaging to make it more available to hear and recognize by the individuals, and also reframing what you do in a light way that get them nurtured into thinking about you. And so leveraging AI is a major benefit when it comes to outreach and cold in general. Also leveraging, I would say this again, every team that I have, we're always leveraging process, but we're building around experts as well. And so you're capable of leveraging AI and using it to a high volume and a high level of success if you've got great people like Luke and Mohit that are guiding the practical implementation of it, how it fits into your overall business structure. And then you've also got to have great SDRs and salespeople, whether it's you as the alias or bringing somebody on to help you, that are there as a human to answer the call when people are ready to talk. So those are the key success ways, I think, to build in AI within your outreach today. We've got just a second. I'll drop links for everybody after to stay connected. But Luke first, and then Mohit, any last thoughts that you want to give our audience that'll help empower them to just get started? That's my main takeaway. Let's just get you started. Go ahead, Luke.
I would say also like just we're talking about cold outreach. We're talking about like using AI for outreach. Everyone obviously thinks about getting more business, getting clients, getting sales, but you can use those channels, the same AI agents that you build to do more than that as well. So for example, before to test your landing page, to test your video demo, to test just what resonates with your audience, is using cold email. Because so before you turn on ads, for example, you can run a campaign with cold email because it costs far less. So you just test. You can send them to a different demo video. You can mention different features in a cold outreach, and you see what works, what sticks, and then even if you don't close any people from that, you're gonna get the insights that can really help you, real data that you can then leverage, for example, before you run paid ads and so on.
Yeah, I love that because I like to think about one of the trends about lead generation and cold that I don't love is the idea of like conversion to call as a deal. And the reason why I don't, I mean, if you're watching this, you probably got a DM about how many calls that you can get this month related to some customer you've worked with in the past. Guarantee it. But the reason I don't like that logic is because the purpose of cold, whether it's calls, email, outreach, whatever it is to start a conversation. And a call is just one form of conversation. You know, if you have a SaaS business, I hear this all the time. Calls can be one of the most cumbersome, like productivity killing part of early stage SaaS companies. So think about each reply, each message you're sending as a conversation. And like Luke said, mine that, listen to the responses to that, look at what worked and doesn't. Those will guide not only successful ways to position your offer, it's going to help you guide product development, it's also going to help you develop pricing, and most importantly, if you're paying attention to this volume of outreach that you're doing, it'll help you understand who the people that care the most about your product and your business want you to be. And then you just need to match that in the future. So Luke, I love that, using it as a tool to basically build all of your marketing off. That's why what we're talking about, build distribution, is where we kind of start with clients at Rising Tides. Start there, build your go-to-market around this, because it's going to give you the insight at a high volume for low cost to really get an understanding of who you are, what your business is, and what your go-to-market should be. Mohit, that was an excellent answer from Luke again, so apologies to you for always going second. What would you add that would help somebody just get started today?
No, I think I agree to both of you, right? For example, you mentioned let's just get started. So that should be the primary key takeaway from this overall conversation, I would say, because cold outreach as well as LinkedIn automation is going to help you down the line. If it is not yielding right now, start small, invest very low, and then go from there. It's gonna be a most powerful channel that you will ever have, and it's gonna be more organic. And from a cost perspective, it's gonna be way cheaper because email and LinkedIn, both of them are not gonna cost you that much. But start with your overall journey of cold outreach if you haven't started yet, and also start getting into the Clay agent and all these new AI technologies which is coming in the market. Start using those and try to automate many repetitive tasks that you can. Start with very small Clay agents or N8N agents, and you can get started with the journey, and down the line you will see this platform or this overall channel will evolve like the most important revenue engine for your business.
Yeah, and I think if you think about any large platform today in their early startup journey, I'll use two examples: Airbnb and Yelp. Both of those started at different ages of the internet revolution here, and both of them relied on founder led selling to start off. Famously, Yelp left Y Combinator, went out to every single restaurant in a proximity, and was like, hey, do you want to use this thing we developed? And they just offered it free, right? And same thing, Airbnb became a message that was sent out to people coming to shows, connecting it up, and offering it out. It was all sales. I would definitely say if those companies were starting today, the first thing that they would be doing would be building cold outreach. It's the fastest way to automate your selling, to get you enough touch points to understand how to sell your company, how to build the offer, and how to get started. That's going to allow you to get the visibility to understand who you need to be, what you're selling, and how to frame that for people in the future. So thanks very much for joining us. If you're, again, I would highly recommend connecting with any of the people with us today, especially Luke and Mohit. Especially if you're getting started in terms of getting your cold outreach, getting your cold selling, digital cold calling done. Luke is at Luke Kimber, Luke-Kimber on LinkedIn. Mohit is also on LinkedIn pretty heavily. Do you have other places you'd like people to connect to you at, or is LinkedIn the best way to find either of you?
LinkedIn is best for me.
Yeah, LinkedIn is right.
Perfect. Well, thanks everybody for joining us, and I do appreciate if something like really sparked your interest, reach out. There's callings for all of us. As we mentioned, one of the things we love to do is share what we know about how to build this, because honestly, as you can tell, one thing we're all looking for is commonalities on like how we can create automations based off different ways to do it. Us listening to you and sharing what we know allows us to contextualize what's going to work in your environment and then share that with others. So thanks very much for taking the time to listen today. Please follow and engage with all of our content, and we appreciate you. Good luck with your sales journey. Goodbye, everybody.
Thanks, guys. Bye bye.
Thanks, everyone.